It is called The Swallowed Man. It is about the 2 years that Geppetto from Carlo Collodi's Adventures of Pinocchio spends inside an enormous sea beast. It's his journal of that um, terrible experience, a long form of self-isolation, and the art that he made during his imprisonment. Well, it started off with the Collodi Foundation and the Parco di Pinocchio in Collodi in Tuscany. They asked me to do an exhibition at the Parco di Pinocchio, and I could do anything about Pinocchio. So I said, yes, of course, I'd love to do it. Nothing would make me happier. And as I reread and reread and reread and reread the book, it suddenly seemed to me that Collodi just leaves Geppetto inside the enormous shark, as it is in the book, and doesn't tell us anything about that experience. And I kept thinking, but what is that experience? What could it be like? And he's an artist. He made his son, after all. And so I wanted to imagine his experience. And Pinocchio in the book spent so much time going, what is a human? I want to be a human. What is a human? And I thought, actually, after spending 2 years in the darkness inside of a monster's belly, Geppetto would be asking a version of the same question. Am I still a human? Well, thank you. But for each book, I try and do a different sort of art. Try and push myself to do something else. And so for this, for The Swallowed Man, it was about trying to do Geppetto's art with what he would have to hand. So sometimes there's a ship inside the shark's belly with him, which is where he lives, swallowed by the shark too. But I think he would run out of ink very quickly. So I thought, of course he would draw with squid ink. And so I drew with squid ink. Myself. So I always try with each different project to try and sum up the world in a different way. So sometimes I'll do sculptures, sometimes I'll do drawings, I'll play around. And for this book, it was really doing all sorts of things. So I would paint on bone, because it would be what came in with when the shark had eaten something, which Geppetto calls the post. And sometimes I would use bits of wood sucked by the sea, or bits of china, broken pottery found by myself and by my family on the banks of the Thames and on the coast in Massachusetts in America. So I was just trying to do all sorts of different things. And for me, each time I do a book, I want to say, well, what does the book want? Not what do I want? What does the book want? And to try and I would go, I've never made I've never carved a wooden figure. Well, then find out how to do it and do it. So I always play around with that. I wrote a book about a woman who made wax figures, and I had to make a wax figure to understand her art. Well, I love Geppetto, but we don't know very much about him, and he was a joy to sort of try to discover. But the character that I think I most loved is the book that gave me the hardest time, and it's a book called Little, or Piccola in Italian, and it's about Madame Tussaud. I was just mentioning her, actually, the wax, the Empress of Wax, and I was so fascinated by her as a human being, that she was a small Swiss foreigner living in Paris during the French Revolution, and she survived it. But not only survived it, she bore the most extraordinary witness to it, and she cast Louis XVI's head and Marie Antoinette's and Robespierre's after they'd been guillotined. But she knew some of these people in life before they died, and I think that it's an extraordinary life, witnessing one of the most famous chapters in history, capturing it in 3D in wax, and then during the rise of Napoleon, bringing it over to England. And I would just kind of imagine in London, opening up her exhibition for the first time, and you see the French Revolution in 3D, in color, cast from life. And it was just like, oh my God, she preserved history. And if you look at her, she looks like a sort of character from folktales. The last sculpture she did is of herself in old age, and she has a very big nose. She's got rather a big chin. She looks a bit like Punch. And she's sort of staring out, and there's no doubt that this little woman is in charge of everyone. I love her. Well, since the pandemic, I've been working on 3 books. I was working on another one, which I sort of abandoned at the beginning because it was too difficult during this difficult time. And I set up with a project. I said I was going to do a drawing a day until this was all over. And I'm going to publish a book in November of a year's worth of those drawings. I'm still doing it. Today is number 387, I think. And later on, I'll be drawing Baudelaire. I think it's his birthday. So there's that. And that was a kind of this, sometimes I would draw, you know, moments of what was going on in the world, because I've experienced this in the pandemic in America. And so to begin with, it was under the appalling presidency of Donald Trump. But I haven't just been doing that. I've written a book of short stories which will come out in Japan in July. But mostly I've been working on a new novel that I've done a draft of, and it's set inside a theatre in the early years, early 1900s. And I miss the theatre so, and the agony of what the people in theatre, what we've all been going through, but these people who can't, musicians and everybody who can't practice their art during this awful time. And my heart, one of the last things I do, I'm speaking to you from Austin, Texas, but I was in London as I sort of fled home as the pandemic started. And one of the last things I did was seeing a production of Uncle Vanya by Chekhov in London, which was amazing. And my heart just bleeds for all that. We need to have it back. Our culture, of course, is not just theatre, but theatre is one of the things that means the most to me. Determination. I'll just keep going. Like my book about Tuesday took me 15 years to finish, but I just keep going. I'm still doing this damn drawing a day. It would be very, very boring. I think I would say superpower, maybe it's discipline.